Hey guys, this will be video 3 for the 1981 Gibson E2 Explorer project. And primarily in this video, I'm just going to be talking about weight analysis and possibly weight relief. Whether we're going to do that or not, I don't know, because this thing is actually turning out fairly light already. So, and I'm going to talk about the pickups a little bit and what some of you guys chimed in and really helped me out with. And I really appreciate that, Simon and Steve as well. You guys chimed in and really kind of put me on the right path because I'm going to go off the cuff a little bit here and talk about this. I remember when Eric first showed this to me, and I've done enough double pull, double throw work to know that you need access to all 5 wires. And you might think, well, no, it's only 4 wires and then a ground. Well, once you add the ground, we're looking at 5 sources there. So that would be the north start, the north finish, the south start, and the south finish, and then the ground. So I got to thinking and thought, okay, if there are 2 leads coming off this pickup, and there's a single conductor wire here and a single conductor wire here, and then just two grounds, there's no way to manipulate that. And I remember kind of reasoning through that I don't think it would have been possible to have done anything other than either a series or however it might have been wired from the factory or split. And sure enough, what I came to the realization, and it was Simon that kind of led me to it first. He mentioned, I'm pretty sure one of the leads is just a hot lead, like the traditional series pickup, and then one of the other wires is going to be one of the coils already split. And obviously, the last thing I want to do is get in there and start pulling tape off and taking wires loose and set this thing up so it could become a 4 conductor wire pickup, so you could wire it in series, parallel, and split. Because as Simon mentioned to me, he said the last time he saw a set of these, they were about $1,000 a pair. So it's really wise to leave them alone. And even Simon had mentioned that these things are ceramic. There are 3 magnets, and yeah, they're pretty hot from what I saw in my first reading. And one of them was reading the lowest ohm setting. The black one here was reading right at 6 ohms. But if this is a real hot ceramic magnet pickup, that 6 ohms might sound pretty incredible. So I say that to say this, these being the Tim Shaw era pickups, my ego is very much on the back burner with these pickups. But I remember thinking on the very front end that I don't see how you could manipulate those the way I have been manipulating the red, like the red, the black, the white, and the green, the wire, and then the bare ground, where you're doing all the double pole, double throw stuff with the DPDT switching. So with that said, I'm pretty sure that one of them is already just a traditional series pickup. And it's funny, I even noticed this wire right here has a little red marker on it. And sure enough, that was the hot lead. And it's coming off this, well, it's coming out of the back of the body under this, the cream. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's, the orientation of the pickup. I'm still not there yet, and I'm going to stop because I didn't make a fool out of myself on the first video, but I made the assumption. I came right out of the gate and said, oh, to me, that's going to be parallel right there. And that was way premature for me to be making statements like that. So I apologize if I misled any of you guys that are just like general viewers, but fortunately, guys chime in, and everybody that watches my channel, they know, man, my ego's on the back burner. If anybody sees me do something, or so always if you see something, say something. Is that the statement? So and they did. Those guys chimed in, but I don't think we'll be able to go series. And it was funny. I had mentioned in that video that I think I'm obviously going to. with respect to whatever Eric is requesting, I'm going to go with that because I made the statement that he might have already done his research. He might already know exactly what he wants, et cetera, et cetera. And sure enough, the last time he shot me a couple texts and he even made the statement in line with what Simon said. Yeah, he was always under the impression that one of the wires is just a series traditional hot lead, and it's the hot side of the pickup, and then the other is the split coil. So that said, I won't bring that up anymore. Other than once we get there, then I'll be working each individual pickup, volume potentiometer as a push pull configuration, and then we'll be manipulating both of them so that probably once they're down, they would be in traditional series, and possibly once you pull them both of them up, then they're both split or something like that. And in case I forget, one of my favorite guitars I ever had was a custom guitar I built a long time ago with a JB and the bridge, and I had a Seymour Duncan a burst bucker. This is a single coil pickup. It's some sort of interesting wiring to it, but nonetheless, that was one of the most beautiful sounding guitars I had ever played when it was in the middle position, running the bridge in series, the JB, which is a pretty high pickup, and then that Seymour Duncan burst bucker in the bridge. It's a Strat pickup for the bridge, the neck position, and it sounded incredible. It's a pretty hot little pickup. So with that said, these once these go into single coil, they may be some pretty hot single coil splits, is what I'm saying. So with that said, got a ways to go with that stuff, and I'm not going to be pulling any tape off those pickups and trying to rewire them because I would absolutely destroy the value of them. I'm joking there. I wouldn't dare do anything like that. But with that said, what I want to do is get back on point and talk about getting ready to glue this top down. And I can't do that until I've either pulled the trigger on the router and done some weight relief in the Honduran Mahogany, because there will not be any material removed from the back of the maple. We've got a solid 1/4 inch, just ever so slightly, not even measurable, over a 1/4 inch thick for the top. So with that said, we would be going into the realm of, okay, well, if we are going to do weight relief, where should we do weight relief, and how is it going to affect the tone? Before we go that route, let's pull out the scale and let me do some very close assessment as to what this guitar is probably going to weigh, at least within a 1/4 pound or so. And this is all in real time. I have not done this yet, so I'm not just pretending like I'm about to be surprised. I have no idea. I did do some real general analysis on, a few weeks back, and it seems like it was going to hit in the 9.2 pound range, worst case scenario. So let's see what we got. And let me pause and get a drink of water. Okay, yeah, I completely forgot about something else I need to talk about before we go into this. I had mentioned on in the last video, for you guys that are actually considering building a guitar, take your top before you glue it down or whatever you're going to do, and find the center and all that stuff. And I thought, well, that made no sense. What I really needed to do was do exactly to the top the exact same thing I did for the bottom, or the lower, where I found that neck pocket first, and then once I put my machining jig up there, my tapering jig, that block right there automatically aligned everything. And I got there and thought, well, I've already got the center line on this maple, so I need to do the exact same thing there, and that's exactly what I did. I went ahead and attached this to the maple, and you can see where I identified where the masking tape was on the maple. Like, I put masking tape down on the maple, and then wherever that masking tape was, I took a Sharpie and I identified it, and then once I pulled this off, then I put masking tape right there, right there, right there, and right there. And then that guaranteed that once I put my CA glue couple of like a little drop here, basically 2 drops per each piece of tape, and that's plenty, as long and just basically just divide it in thirds. And then with that said, keep in mind this. Let's see, this had not been machined yet, or maybe it had been machined. I can't remember, but nonetheless, every bit of this was done with just quick grip clamps on the body, and then. But I did do that. Yeah, I did this one first. So, and that was just all a matter of using this router bit right here, with it in position. So once I knew that this score line on the back of the Stuart McDonald template was perfectly on line with the glue up joint of the maple, well, that guarantees that we're going to be machining our upper piece of maple identical to what's in the body. Well, that's impossible to hold. And then you just simply pull the trigger on that right there, because see, you've already defined that end cut right there, I guess. No, I apologize. I should have done this video when I did the job the other night. I had not machined the perimeter of the maple. It was still enormous, but I knew that before I machined that spot on per the body lower, I had to define that first. Okay, so I apologize. That was the very first thing that I identified. And I knew that once I had that location right there, it didn't matter if this was just a big rectangular board. By that right there, once I laid it up on the body and worked it up into that block right there, that was going to align everything true enough that, well, I'll just do it. It'll be easier to show you once I have it there. And then once I had that side to side, then all it was a matter of just putting the center line of the maple on the center line of the body. And then what's the next thing? Clamp. Just all you do is just do 2 clamps, okay? So these 3 locations had not been drilled yet. This had not been routed yet. That had been routed, obviously, to get you started. And then once you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you've got the center line of your maple on the center line of your body, you do a quick grip here, a quick grip here, maybe a quick grip over here. Now you go to your drill press with a Forstner bit, 3/8 inch Forstner bit. Don't dare try to drill through that with a Forstner bit. You'll destroy the whole project because it'll tear out really bad. Forstner bits are horrible. But at least take the Forstner bit and kind of punch through a little bit and maybe take about a 1/16 of the maple off, just enough to get it lined up, but then very quickly turn over to a very sharp traditional bit at a fairly high speed. I ran this at about 1200 RPMs because the Forstner bit had already identified it. I clamped it on the drill press, changed bits, and then I went on through with the traditional drill bit at a very high speed. And I'm a bit of a cowboy, but I trust this bit. I know it's a high quality bit, but typically you should put some poplar down and maybe tape it or clamp or something. But I went ahead and drilled those 3. And then once I had that location right there, I just left, or those 3 locations, I basically just left that drill bit in that location right there. I left that block in that location right there, and then I simply set it up on my routing station after I kind of cleaned up some of the real excessive overhang, and then I just pulled the trigger with this bit right here. And this bearing is about to burn up. It's turning a little bit, but don't push into your mahogany at all. You'll burn a track into it, but just you'll feel it once it bottoms out. And then when you're coming around this corner, be real careful. Or like if you're going to do this corner, make sure you come around this way. If you come around this way, the bit is turning clockwise, and it always has a tendency to catch the grain and chip off the corner, and it did. I had to glue that little corner back on, but it's only about 1/8 of an inch wide. But this is what I was talking about. If you're working with Carina, limba, and like a quarter sung. That stuff has a real dry grain. It's real open. If you're routing up in this direction right here, your router bit is turning clockwise, so that means uh, it's cutting out like this. It's like a hurricane turning in reverse. And sure enough, with that, once you get up into this area right here, those bits, they have a tendency to chip out right here. So when I'm coming around this top corner, I'm always doing a climb cut around that corner and just really holding on to the router. You got to be careful around these corners because everything will be going great right up to the point to where you're going in the wrong direction. Like if you were going in this direction and going around that corner, you have a strong likelihood that once you get to about right here, that the router bit could split the whole corner of that off. And typically you can make those repairs, but those are not things you want to experience. And I didn't, other than just that one silly little end cut right there. And it happens. But again, I didn't even have to say anything about it. But nonetheless, once these two locator pins, I'll call them, were in position, then I was able to route over here, move the clamp, turn the body a little bit, maybe route this 1/3 up here, and then turn the body and route this 1/3 over here, paying attention to the rotation of the bit. And if there's like a really excessive amount of material up here, I took a jigsaw first and I cut it off with a scroll jigsaw blade. And then sometimes what I'll do is just go ahead and put those on my oscillating sander a little bit. But nonetheless, within just a few minutes, I had a 1981 footprint. And it's really beautiful. So very happy with it. And the next thing that will happen after it's all glued up and ready to have binding put on it, I always like working with the 60 thousandths binding because all I have to do now is take this exact same bit, remove this 1/2 inch bearing, put a 3/8 inch bearing on there, make one single cut pass with respect to those same, rotation and orientation, the path by which you take to route that channel. And then basically all you're doing here, you're building a Les Paul. You're building a 59 Les Paul. If you're working with 60 thousandths binding, a 1/2 inch router bit with a 3/8 inch bearing, so simple, so simple. And that's what will be taking place after we weigh this thing and assess whether we want to do weight relief, and that's Eric's call. And then we'll be ready to bind it. So let's do just that. Let's do some weight analysis now that I talked about that chaotic operation of doing the top. And I apologize for not thinking about that on the front end. And after I did that last video, I was like, that's not the way I do that. I don't just glue the whole thing down, because that defeated the whole purpose of taking advantage of the fact that I had already done all this incredible machine work under here. Okay, so anytime you do something that's engineered, man, take advantage of it for purposes just like that, alignment purposes. Okay, so now let's get that over to the side. Let's get the scale, and let's start loading it up. In the camera. I'll try to keep it in the camera. Usually that right there always, you're able to actually see the numbers. Okay, what have we got here? A lower that is pretty much 100% solid. I haven't done the little Honduran fillets yet. It's no big deal. That's not going to affect the weight. But let's see what the lower weighs. 4.178 pounds. They would have a bed of epoxy that's pretty thin. I would do the epoxy there and the epoxy here. So there's a little bit of weight, chemical weight, but not terribly much. Okay, 5.298 pounds. Okay, so let's do some assessment here. Okay, 5.298 pounds for a body. And for reference, I have a vintage Strat body that is ash that I'm going to be restoring. It's got a pretty nasty split right here and here, but nonetheless, this is a body which everyone would be comfortable with the weight to some degree. And I'm not going to say it's light because it's not light, but it's not terribly heavy either. Okay, 5.558 pounds for a vintage Strat body. And what does it feel like? It feels like heaven. It feels like a Strat body. And it's a beautiful old guitar body. Okay, so back to this guitar. Oh, well, in case I don't forget, I've got the two Explorers over here that are pretty much feather light. We'll weigh them unless I forget. We'll weigh them as well. Okay, so now let's start stacking it up. 5.298 pounds. Let's go ahead and build the husk first. Got pretty much a complete neck, 100% other than the tuner. So to me, this is what I would consider the husk. 6.596 pounds. Okay, let's add the tuners. 7.022 pounds. Okay, it has the nut on it. I'll put the strings on last. That's kind of irrelevant right now, but what would be the next thing? Well, you'd be going down the line. Okay, the next thing would be the bridge. So there's the TP6, which brings it up to 7.306 pounds. Here are the vintage studs. These are the actual studs and the bushings and the brass studs that will be going in. 7.436 pounds. We need a bridge, which we have. Vintage crack. And in case I forget, Eric, I had mentioned something about doing really light relic, but probably not on this because I run the risk of that S being like a decal. And man, if I look at that thing, it may come off. So we'll talk about that, but let me get back on point. 7.602 pounds. Okay, got some Shaler strap locks. These are brass. They're replicas, but these are exceptional strap locks. 7.630, and then we'll go ahead and do the wiring harness. This is a wiring harness out of my Gretsch 6120, and it has one potentiometer too much, but I think it's close enough for rock and roll because by the time we do the clear coat on this body with the nitrocellulose lacquer, I'm probably not going to be able to estimate that, very accurately. In other words, the weight of a potentiometer is, I think it's 26 grams, give or take. So it's not much, not really even measurable. So 7.946 pounds for guitar that is ready to receive pickups and a pickguard. So I'm going to put some binding up here, but this is probably a little bit of overkill. And there's the pickguard. We'd have pickguard screws and stuff like that. So we're up to 8.162 pounds. 8.162 pounds before the pickups and before the strings. And also, I've got a jar here with some nitrocellulose lacquer in it. We'll set that up there on the top in a little while. But I want to see what it would weigh raw first. Okay, so here's one of the pickups. Find a real safe place to put that. I'm going to, just to be safe, I'm going to just do this right here. Okay, so there's one of the pickups. Okay, 8.730 pounds. This is, to me, this is feeling really good. Couple of pickup rings, traditional. I've got your metal rings over here, Eric. I'm going to hold off on those because we've already kind of had a general discussion about using those as an afterthought. So 8.758 pounds. Your three little control knobs. 8.792 set of strings. 8.832 pounds. And we still haven't shot the nitrocellulose lacquer on it, which is, it's not light, but it's not terribly heavy either. So right now we're at 8.832 pounds. Now let's spray. This is about a quarter of a bottle, and typically if you were using this little canister, at a minimum just to do the body, you would have about a canister and a little bit over a full canister to spray the whole body. So this ought to be pretty accurate. Okay, 9.344 pounds. I messed up. I hit the tear. Sorry. Well, there it is. 9.342 pounds. I was supposed to hit mode. Let me hit tear again. Sorry about that. All right, let's go back to our 9.3 something pounds. 9.342 pounds, give or take. 4,237 grams for Simon in the UK. All right, so 9.342 pounds. That's incredible because this guitar is they typically weigh about 10.5 pounds because the lower is made out of maple, and maple is not light at all. But the cool thing about this maple right here, it even the thicker blocks, it didn't feel nearly as dense as what I was used to seeing. But it's not light at all. The Honduran mahogany is always super light. Okay, so with that said, 9.342 pounds if we left the body solid. So let me pause, and I'm going to get all this cleaned up, organized, and off the table and off to the side. And then I'm going to start talking about what we could expect to do to the tone if we start chambering it, and where that threshold might be where we would start losing the guitar if we chambered it too much. So let me pause, get everything under control, and I can't think of anything that I might have left off of the guitar. I'm looking over here. I don't really see anything, so let me pause and I'll be right back. Okay, while we're doing weight comparatives, let's go ahead and take this Explorer. You know, and I just realized the only thing I forgot to put on here was the covers, like the control cavity covers, but you know, the plastic, not that big of a deal. Okay, so I'm going to take this husk and I'm going to load it up as if we're finishing this guitar, and let's see where we end up with this one. This is a quarter sawn poplar body, solid Honduran mahogany neck, vintage Bolivian rosewood fretboard, and I've got all the parts over here to turn this into a guitar as well. So let's see what this one would weigh. Get it where it can hang off the table here. And if anything, this should be a really interesting video. And I'll keep all of the comparatives related to, because I'm going to weigh the Black Limba Explorer replica that I'm building over here as well. So to start out with this guitar, no tuners yet, no nut, and I've got a bone nut right here. So we'll be doing some really thorough comparatives here. Got a bone nut now. 6.220 pounds. Eric's tuners, 6.646 pounds. The Eric's strap buttons, the Shaler style brass. Okay, I won't be needing to put the studs up here because they're already in the body, but we need a bridge. a tailpiece. Well, I need a tailpiece and a bridge. Cluson USA, aluminum tailpiece. Cluson USA ABR1, which is one of my favorite bridges. 6.962 pound husk with tuners, a nut. Where are the strings? Okay, so this would be an acoustic guitar, an acoustic Explorer replica before you ever did anything. Spot on 7 pounds, 7.000 pounds. Okay, now I got some pickups here that are basically Alnico 250s, like a 1958 specification, and these are pretty accurate to the specifications, all the way down to the exact type of enamel wire and all that jazz. 7.654 pounds. And hold on one second, I'm going to need my wiring harness. Hold on one second. Okay, 7.654 pounds before the wiring harness. A wiring harness with one potentiometer too much. Pick guard would be virtually identical to that right there. I'm sorry, before I weigh it. 7.970 pounds. Add the pick guard. 8.136 pounds. A couple of control knobs, or 3. And what else would we need? Two vintage pickup rings. And I'm looking across the table there, I don't see anything else. So 8.198 pounds, and that's based on a poplar body and the Honduran mahogany neck. So you can see the weight difference there. Why is it heavier? Most likely because of the maple. Maple's pretty heavy, even though this is a bigger body. This is the 1958 body footprint. The solid poplar, quarter sawn poplar, is pretty lightweight. And this is a true 1 1/2. It's slightly over 1 1/2 inches thick, so perfect weight, 8.198 pounds. And I believe did I get the string? Yeah, even have the strings on it. It's got a bridge, it's got a tailpiece, it's got tuners, it's got strap buttons, all that jazz. It's got nitrocellulose paint. So, and that thing probably has, 18 to 20 super hyper thin coats of nitro, and that was painted like a 1.5 years ago. So that's the guitar. And I just lost the thing turned off on. These things turn off so fast. So tear. And we're gonna do the same thing with the black Limba guitar. Okay, so basically 8.2 pounds. And to me, that's the ideal guitar. But with Eric's guitar, and where I'm going with this, I don't think I'm going to forget this. No, I know I won't, because that's what we're about to talk about. When you have a super light wood, when you relieve a certain amount of it, unfortunately, you don't drop a lot of the weight. But when you have a very dense body that's hyper overweight, just by relieving a little bit of weight, it's fairly considerable. So with that said, going straight to the finish line, it probably would be pretty tough to get Eric's guitar under 9 pounds, but we'll see. And I say all that to say this: I'm not so certain I would recommend it, because I'm afraid we would start losing the tone of his actual guitar. I'm talking specifically about his guitar, not general discussion about the tone of a guitar. But when I talk about the tone of his guitar with those incredible hot Wildcat pickups, I don't want to get that. I don't want to turn that thing into a hollow body. Okay, now, so it's here, and start over. Okay, again, this guitar, just it's not even a husk yet. Has absolutely no sealer on it at all. At least it's got a cover on there. Okay, it's a good weight. 5.634 pounds. And what do you know? I got an actual Gibson Les Paul custom fretboard that we're going to take advantage of. And let's see how much this guitar would weigh as like a husk. 6.044 pounds. Put some tuners on it. 6.468 pounds. Strap buttons. Okay, this is where we'll need some studs, vintage studs, and bushings. And my bridge is going to be a little bit light because I don't have it readily available. The two little studs and the thumb wheels, you know, close enough. And by the time I put this wiring harness up here that has the one potentiometer too much, that'll make up for the weight of the bridge studs. Okay, so do we have an acoustic guitar yet? We do now. We've got studs, a bridge, a tailpiece, strings, tuners, a bone nut somewhere. Okay, 6.960 pounds. Okay, that's so you see kind of the arena that we're working in right here. Let's go ahead and put the pick guard on there because if anything, if you're playing an acoustic, you want it to be pretty. Pick guard, pickup rings, 7.152 pounds. Let's go ahead and put our wiring harness up there. 7.468 pounds. 3 control knobs. 7.502 pounds. The two 1958 pickups. 8.158 pounds. And what am I missing here? Oh, the lacquer. And this is probably not, it would be probably be much, I'm not going to say considerably heavier. It would definitely be heavier than this. I don't know, that glass bottle weighs quite a bit because this thing is bare. It's raw. It has no sealer or anything on it at all. Okay, 8.668 pounds. So about getting close to 8.8 3/4 pounds. So this one's probably a little bit heavier than the popular black nitro guitar over there. But you see what I'm getting at. The guitars that I'm building, they're coming in under 9 pounds, roughly around 8.3 to 8.75 pounds. Okay. And there you have it. So let me think about what I might want to talk about as far as chambering now. So let me pause, get all this off the table, and we'll go from there. And make sure that's running. Yeah. One of the main reasons I wanted to show the weight analysis or comparatives on these two guitars is kind of for Ed in the event. Eric's got a buddy that had made the statement that he might be interested in me building the guitar for him, and I just kind of wanted Ed to, if he's watching this, that he could kind of see the comparatives here as well. And also, I'll briefly just mention this, Ed, for you. The way I build my guitars, I always do a double adjustable truss rod, even though it's a vintage design, because once that cover goes over it, it's irrelevant it actually, to me, it's very important what's under there. But that's the way I build my necks, and I embed a double adjustable truss rod under there so that once I do, I typically glue my fretboards down with a tight bond, but I typically always epoxy my necks into the body so they act as like a through body design. But nonetheless, that when you're gluing this fretboard surface down to this neck lower, then you've got a 100% solid bond, and you've got a guitar that looks vintage correct, but then it has the benefits of the modern double adjustable truss rod. Okay, so that's kind of why I wanted to do that part as well, but also just for my own general records to have that information where I could go to one video and do a comparative between 3 different guitars. And that black nitro cellulose uh, Explorer replica there, that's exactly how I did the fretboard and the fretboard. I'm sorry, the truss rod and the fretboard on that guitar as well. So let's talk about weight relief. Okay, the way I would go about engineering my weight relief is I've covered this in numerous videos, and Eric has probably heard it enough that he doesn't want to hear it anymore, but I'll share it with you guys briefly. Anytime I'm doing weight relief, at a minimum, I want to maintain some sort of tone bar design within the body, and that's what I mentioned by wanting to come back with some fillets here, because man, it's so important that you have a solid top as much as possible. And we do. We've got a 1/4 inch solid top. But if I don't need all this enormous channel right here for these 2 wires to go through, then I want to fill it back in so that I have some continuity there. So when I'm doing my weight relief, this is what I mentioned by I'm going to be weight relieving around this imaginary tone bar that's going down this location right here and this location right here. And if you can see that, I've already drawn, there's a whole bunch of pencil lines on here and it's a little confusing. That's the center line, but if you see the X's, X there, there, even though this is kind of machined up into it, it's irrelevant, but because there's mass right there that continues the tone bar in that location. But nonetheless, if I was going to do weight relief to this body, I would consider doing a little bit of weight relief right in this area right here, but definitely behind at least about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch behind the stud locations for the tailpiece. If we were doing like a wraparound bridge, then you might want to go up a little bit further, but you're not really going to gain a lot of weight relief by hollowing that out. And if you really hollow this out in here, you're going to start turning it into a Gretsch. So be careful. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I love like the Gretsch Penguin, the way they're all chambered out on the inside. But you would start losing the Les Paul Explorer, Flying V, SG type tones. And I don't want to do that with too much chambering. So if we were really fighting that 9.3 pound weight to try to get it back down to like 8.5 or something like that, I might say let's definitely chamber this right up to that limit right there, and then let's chamber a triangular location out up here. We're not going to pick up any weight relief at all by taking out a little bit of that area right there. So I say leave that in there for tone and strength, because if the guitar gets dropped and hit on that corner, I want that to be really substantial and as strong as possible. And up here where it's not strong and substantial, I'm going to be saturating the end grain here and the end grain here with super thin water-like CA glue. I'll be soaking that. It'll be just rock solid, so that if the guitar fell and took a blow right there, it'll do the best it can to keep it from breaking. And where's it going to break? It's going to break across that line right there. The whole little tip's going to come off. Well, probably not. It probably would crack. Well, if you were only putting the pick guard over it, yeah, it would definitely break through. But since we're going to be doing the solid top and only drilling a hole in here, that maple's pretty, strong. So with it all epoxied down, if it took a blow, it might do a little bit of a fracture, but it's not going to come apart. But neither here nor there. Let's not talk about bad thoughts. Let's talk about happy thoughts. So with weight relief, where I'm going this back to this lower. $4.176 pounds. Okay, with that number in the back of our mind, let's ask ourselves, if we took out this area right here and this volume, but we're not going to be able to take out the full thickness, which is 1 1/4 right here. We, at a minimum, we want to leave the back. Well, truth be known, I really wouldn't want to take the back any less than 3/8 inch thick on the back. I'm kind of engineering this off the cuff for Eric, and if you can kind of read between the lines, I don't want to really do any chambering at all, unless Eric is just like, man, we got to get it under 9 pounds. I can't handle that. But let's see this right here. That's 3/8 of an inch. And if we left this back 3/8 of an inch, I'm literally only taking out about 3/4 of an inch depth here and about 3/4 of an inch depth there. And how do you determine, well, what would that weigh? Well, you always keep a bunch of Honduran mahogany from past jobs. And the whole idea about this being feather light, okay, if this is roughly the area up here, it would be a little bit larger than that, but not much that you would relieve out, because any relief work you did, I would say I wouldn't go any closer than 7/8 of an inch. So just imagine, let me just draw, because it's just a pencil line, it's not going to hurt anything. And this will kind of show you how I would engineer. And it's funny, I call it engineering. Hell, it's not engineering. I'm just drawing a damn straight line. It's just an offset line. And then I'd come up here and, kind of round it. It'd be round up here. So basically, you got a line right there, and a line right there. And it's a substantial amount of material when you talk about all this in here that you could relieve out, but not all the way through the body. Now see, if this was like a Les Paul where it's 2 inches thick and then you got a 5/8 inch thick maple top and the body alone is getting up into the 7.5 pound range, you can take out a substantial mass there and it makes a big difference. But with that said, roughly you see how this is going to be a very good representation of the weight relief. And it's not going to be much. 1/4 pound. But that if it's 9.3 pounds, we're getting much closer to 9 pounds. So let's say that to say this. It wouldn't, by removing this material up here, it gets us very close to a 9-pound guitar. Very close. Okay? And then once we remove this material in here, it's not quite that volume right there, but this will be a little bit of this will be a close representation. 0.3, okay, so 0.542 pounds. So let's just say it's roughly a 1/2 pound, because these are pretty thick right there. They're almost as completely thick as that body is, so that's a little bit heavy. But being conservative and being very hopeful, by doing some pretty serious weight relief, I could probably get it down to, a 1/2 pound lighter than 9.3. So what would that be, like 8.8 pounds? Getting much closer to the other guitars. Would we be changing the tone? I would say yes. And it would be getting more of like it'd be just more like I'm not going to say a Gretsch, it's going to sound a little bit different. And with these hyper hot pickups that you've got going with this guitar, I'd feel much better if we just left it all solid and just really took advantage of I haven't even done any tap tone work yet. Okay, that's brutal. That's a monster tap tone, absolutely off the charts. So, in case your ears are not ringing, I probably should have forewarned you there a little bit. But it's hard to get anything out of this because it's not that it's thin, but it's just I can't really hold it. Let me bang it up so I don't put dents in it. Got a beautiful clear top tone, but nonetheless, with that said, I say we leave it solid and really capture that down the center line, just powerhouse tone, the tap tone, and especially with those hot ceramic pickups, that'd probably be an absolute monster. But if you want me to relieve some weight, I definitely can. Is it going to change the guitar 100%? No, not 100%, but it would probably be. I can't think of the word to use. It would probably just have more, kind of like a train wreck. It might be a little bit unpredictable, and it might have more tendency to feed back a little bit. I don't really know. The reason I say that is because there's a whole heck of a lot of chambering going on right here. And by the time you empty out all this area, you continued with emptying out all this area right here. We've done some pretty serious chambering along this side of that treble tone bar location, as I like to always talk about. You know, and I relate this to like the Gretsch stuff where they have the tone bars down either side, the bass side and the treble side. But you know, anyway, I'll just stop talking. But read between the lines, Eric, a little bit. Let me know what you want to do. I could leave a little bit of a. I could do like 2 little triangle reliefs up here, and maybe do. I've never done this. I've never done like an angled tone bar up in here, or like a fan. It would be kind of like a fan. You'd have this tone bar here, and then I might do a bit of a fan. But again, we're not going to be removing a whole bunch of material there to really make a huge difference in the weight. And I think with the guitar just hanging on your person, I don't really know if you're going to feel a half a pound. So, okay. So I hope I didn't get too long-winded there. But nonetheless, that's the first time I've got to analyze the weight, but it was pretty darn cool that I had predicted it's going to be around 9.3 pounds. And sure enough, man, she hit right at about 9.3 pounds. So that's pretty cool. As far as being able to predict what a guitar is going to weigh. And with that said, if you think about it, if you're building a guitar and you want it to weigh 9.3 pounds, well, then just make certain that your body weighs whatever this body weighs. And it's amazing. I can't remember now. I think it was like 5 point something. Okay, so let me pause. Okay, I've been standing here for like 10 minutes trying to figure out what I should talk about to end this video, and I'll end it talking about the pickup rings. Eric, I got your text, and when I was driving down the interstate when you shot me that text about, hey, what about machining into the pick guard in order to receive the rings? Yeah, I definitely could do that, but I didn't want to be the one that said, oh yeah, it's not a big deal, I'll just machine that and do all that stuff. I wanted to start out with the guitar, perfectly on the center with the historical rings, and then build the body from there. And then it's the sky's the limit after that. If you wanted to go with the larger pickup ring, then it would be something either I could fit in, which I don't have a problem. It's not my guitar. We'll do whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to build the guitar based on all of the historical stuff first and the historical center line, and then if we go with the larger ring, and I just marked these are about 2.5 millimeter wider than the vintage ones. And when I'm talking about width, I'm talking about from that side to that side there. And then as far as the width from here to there, they're bigger. I'm not going to say considerably bigger and make it and be melodramatic about it, but I would almost say they are considerably bigger, because it so much so that it would have changed the design had I've gone with this historically correct pick guard and not machined it, because that's what I meant by a millimeter and a half or a quarter pushed down, and then since they're wider, pushed back a little bit to balance that space, that gap that's left between there, because you wouldn't want to take up that gap and it look inaccurate. So that's what I meant by if I pushed it down a little bit and pushed it back, it would have changed the location of that horn. But whether you wanted to end the job with me machining down into this, what's the front? Yeah, machining down into this ever so slightly to receive this, that's fine. But I just didn't want to take off this whole line here and then even this pitch back here, especially on a pick guard that I thought might be 100% intact. But now that we've got a pick guard that has a little bit of a corner there, it's your guitar. We'll do whatever you want to do. But I didn't want to sound like I was trying to, not work with these, because my theory is this: if a client puts a certain item in a box that they want to work with, then at a minimum, it's my job to do a quick mock-up and let them kind of see what it might look like. And we'll get there as we get the guitar stained, painted, clear coat, and all that jazz. Then there at the very end, then we can truly do some mock-up and ask ourselves, do we like what we see with the traditional black, or do we want to go ahead? I say we. It's irrelevant what I like. What's important is what the client likes. And reading between the line, would I put the gold rings on there? No, it wouldn't be my choice. But as I said, it's not my guitar, man. But hear me out for a second. This is the only thing that would. This is hard to do, and I hope the camera doesn't cut me off. Let me check the time. Getting pretty close. I got like 2 minutes before it's going to cut me off. My camera storage is pretty much shot. The only thing, and we got plenty of time to make this decision. I'm not going to be able to do this because this is going to fall apart. The only thing that would spook me about if we were to go with the gold rings, I'm afraid the gold rings might start competing with the gold bridge and competing with the gold TP6 and not look historically accurate anymore. Again, it's irrelevant right now, because if I build the guitar on the center line, whatever we do in the future, whether we're using this pick guard or another pick guard, to answer your question, Eric, absolutely, man, for certain. I can machine down into this, and I can machine down into this up here where it's banjoed and get these in there, but they would be getting a little bit closer to this line here and a little bit closer to that line there, if not almost kissing. So anyway, we got plenty of time. That's what I meant by we got plenty of time to make a decision about pickup rings, because it's irrelevant at this point because they're just based off that center line. Okay, so with that said, but the only drawback is these are about 100 grams heavier there. So, they are heavier, and we would be getting closer to like 9.4 pounds with the guitar. So let me check the time before it cuts me off. I think we got like 50 seconds. All right. I can't think of anything else to cover in this video, but I'm going to hold off on gluing this top down until Eric has seen the video, and then we've possibly discussed the chambering, because again, it's his guitar.